Are you about to meet or interview a backend developer and you have no clue what to talk about? This IT Recruiter's Guide to Confident Small Talk includes the role of a backend developer. It actually starts with the role, so backend developer. So I'm going to fill it in for you and I'm going to comment it so you know a little more about the backend developer, what to ask, what tools, what languages, what frameworks do they use, and what kind of questions can you even ask next time you meet this person. So why don't you look over my shoulder and we can go through these questions. So I have the worksheet ready, also with the mind maps booklet, IT Recruiter's mind maps. This is super helpful because as soon as you learn some of these terms, it all gets easy, right? So let's kick it off with the first question. What do we know about this role? So a backend developer usually works on the backend side. So what is a backend side? Well, usually there are these three layers. So the front end is the user facing, then there is a backend, and then there is storage, right? So a backend developer usually works on the backend side of it, so on the APIs, so application programming interface, right? This is what a backend developer usually takes care of, the backend code, backend software. So having said that, they usually use one of the backend programming languages. So now, what are the programming languages used on the backend side? As you can see on the page number 9, software development landscape, backend server-side languages, so JavaScript or PHP, C#, Java, Ruby, or Python. So these are. I'm not going to go through these languages in depth, as you know, we cannot really explain everything in this short video. If you don't know it, I encourage you to go to IT Recruiter Toolkit, where I explain everything in depth and you learn all these frameworks related to different programming languages. All right, so they usually integrate these APIs, so it's not user-facing, it's not what users see, but it's rather the backend side of it, the APIs that handle the communication with a database, with the storage. Okay, so data are stored in storage, and this is what users see. The front end is what users see. If you guys cannot answer some of these questions, there is always a cheat sheet on the right side. So we can also see here, they should know at least one server-side programming language. So you can ask a developer eventually, hey, what programming language do you use to code the backend? So Java, PHP, Python, C#, Ruby, and even JavaScript using Node.js runtime environment. So Node.js is not a framework. It could be seen as a framework, but it's actually a runtime environment. So it is something that enables JavaScript to run on the backend side. And now why? Well, because JavaScript was meant to be a front-end language. So JavaScript started as this front-end language to build front-end user-facing dynamic websites. But then someone has an idea, like, hey, why don't we enable JavaScript to run on the backend side also? And that's why there was this Node.js created. Here in the cheat sheet, I have written also that backend developers develop applications that support the front end. It should provide support, security, content management, etc. They usually work in agile teams using Kanban or Scrum methodology. So if you don't know what is Kanban, Scrum, Waterfall, what are some of the roles, well then I also encourage you to go to IT Recruiter Toolkit, because that's something I cover in depth in one of the modules, and it's super essential to know these terms, because then you can ask questions like, hey, how do you do stand-ups? Somewhere here is a mind map on software development landscape. Should be somewhere here. Hold a sec. Oh no. Okay, I'll not waste time with this, but it's somewhere in the booklet, and the software development lifecycle and methodologies. Okay, so moving on. The question number 2, what tools, languages, frameworks, or methods does this person use? So languages, we could write some of these backend languages, C#, Python, Java, JavaScript, right? And frameworks. Now, what frameworks do they use? We can again open this mind map and see the most popular frameworks. So what you can see here are languages, and then on the right side are frameworks. So PHP using Laravel, Symfony or Zend framework. C# using .NET framework or .NET Core. Okay, so these are the frameworks. So you can ask a developer, what framework do you use? Do you use Zend, or do you use Laravel, or do you use Symfony, if you are talking to a PHP backend developer? Okay, so what methods, Kanban, Scrum, methodology. So databases, what kind of databases do they use? So for example, here I would write databases, and it could be either relational or non-relational. If you don't know what are relational and non-relational databases, again, I encourage you to go to the itrecruiter toolkit, because I explain it all. It is all included in the module number, well, I don't remember, but it's one of the modules that covers data, databases, and BI roles. So databases, then frameworks. Frameworks actually depend on the language, so it's a language specific. And it comes down to what you can see here, but obviously much more. This is just the high-level overview. One of these mind maps goes a little deeper. What would you ask during a watercolor discussion? So for example, what is your favorite programming language and why? You know, so favorite programming language and why. I actually like to ask why, because it helps me to understand the choices behind this. Your favorite framework, you can ask, hey, I know you are a PHP developer, so what framework do you use? Have you been experimenting with Laravel or Symfony? These are the new frameworks. Okay, what kind of IDE do you use? IDE is an integrated development environment, so this is something they use on a daily basis. It's like a tool they use to write software code. So developers usually have some popular, so you can ask, hey, what is your popular? Is it Atom? Is it Sublime? You can also look at the cheat sheet and see another question, like, do you maintain any open source repository? Usually these backend developers contribute to some open source, so you can ask, hey, have you ever contributed to open source? What is your popular open source repository? And you can also ask about agile methodology. So we talked about agile here, right? They use Kanban, they use Scrum. So you can ask, hey, what is your favorite methodology? Do you use any of these at work? How it went? What were your main challenges, right? Like, you suddenly have lots of questions to ask just after you understand that they use databases, they use frameworks, they use some methodologies, and you can start asking, hey, what database do you use? Relational? Okay, so was it MySQL or non-relational? Was it MongoDB? Right? Like, what's your experience? What's your preference? Which one is better for that particular purpose? Okay, so a lot to ask. Just as soon as you understand a little more about the role, about what languages, what frameworks do they use, what tools, then it just gets easy. So I encourage you to go through this guide, IT Recruiter's Guide to Confident Small Talk. Spend a few moments thinking about it, because usually when you are supposed to write something down, you may realize you don't really know the answer. So it really works well for me to try to write something down, and then I realized maybe I don't understand it as much as I thought I would. And then you watch a video. There is this QR code, so you can watch a video, you learn a little about this role, and next time you go for an interview, next time you go for a screening call, it's a no-brainer. You will already know what to ask, what to talk about. So yeah, just click the link below if you don't have this guide. Click the link below this video, download this guide, print it out, and start learning, whether you are at home today working remotely, because we cannot really go anywhere due to this corona outbreak. So it's ideal time to spend a few moments going through these roles, understanding them, and next time you are on a call or meeting a software developer, you know what to ask, you are ready, and that's that's what makes a great recruiter. So just click the link below, get the guide, and start learning today.